Hello, everybody. Not sure if you can hear me or not. Had some problems the last time I went live, so if anybody is there, let me know. Hi, Sea Lover. Sorry, I'm running a little late. Um, yes, this lesson is going to focus on vibrato. Um, I do need to let you know, though, that I just took a nap after church was over and my voice is not awake. But hopefully it will wake up more as I go through this lesson. So, one of the one of the best voice teachers that I've ever even heard about is a guy named David L. Jones. And David L. Jones um, is really one of the most prominent voice teachers alive today. Um, and there's just so much that that's hard to explain. Hi, Tess. Um, but I hope that you'll understand most of what I'm going to read to you from his article on vibrato, because he sometimes writes kind of like a PhD. So some of the terms he uses might be difficult to understand, but I will try to help as I read this article. So he says he consistently gets emails and letters from singers asking him questions about what is vibrato and how do they develop it in their voice. Another question that arises is, are there certain singers who just don't have that kind of sound in their vocal production? Can vibrato be developed? Is another question. And so he's going to try to address these questions and offer thoughtful advice to those who wish to have vibrato defined. And he'll also give some concrete ideas on how to vocalize in such a way that vibrato is encouraged to develop. So I'm going to start now with what he wrote. Um, I define vibrato as a slight variation of pitch resulting from the free oscillation of the vocal cords. This free oscillation of the vocal cords results from two things: an open pharynx, or what many call an open throat, along with healthy closure of the vocal cords. And he has a separate article that I could go to, but I'm not going to. But he has a whole article on vocal cord closure to explain that better. But he says, I consider that vibrato is a result of these two opposites working together. Because of course, if a vocal cord is oscillating, it's not pressing against another vocal cord, it's vibrating. But the two work together to create a vibrato. Um, he says, I consider that uh, another major factor in vibrato is The even subglottic breath pressure, that has to do with the air pressure that's being pressed against the vocal cords. Hey, Steve-O. This is regulated by the support system. And I did a whole lesson on breath support, but I didn't go as deep into it as I could go. David Jones says um, the support system involves the abdominal muscles, the lower lumbar and upper gluteal muscles, the intercostal muscles, those are the muscles between your ribs, and the pectoral muscles. And he has a whole article on breath and breath management, which if I hadn't realized that he had one, I probably would have read that when I was doing my short lesson on breath support. But I may go to that and redo that lesson with his article helping me a little. Environmental factors can also uh, have an effect on vibrato. He said, as a child, he always had a vibrato. Whether developed through vocal freedom or imitation, he doesn't know. But he said, I had an older sister who was an excellent soprano, and she used to sing a lot of opera and operetta in the home. I found great joy in imitating her vocal sound while I was still a boy soprano. I could match it quite well and was later asked to join the Texas Boys Choir because I had a healthy and even vocal sound. Um, Other cultures encourage different types of vibrato. For example, he says, some Asian cultures, in some Asian cultures, a wide and slow vibrato is very desirable. Hi, Indy. Many French pop singers use a faster, tighter vibrato. Neither of these examples, though, represent what he calls a healthy vocalism. Um, so there are some problems in vibrato. And the first problem that some people develop is what's called a vocal wobble. We often hear singers that have a wide and slow vibrato. And he has a whole article on that too, which I hadn't looked up yet. Um, the causes have been described in his article on the vocal wobble, but he just briefly explains it here. A wide vibrato is usually a lack of proper resistance of the breath pressure, or it comes from a lack of focus in the tone. It can also be a result of a lack of proper adduction of the vocal cords. One or all of these problems create a sound that our culture defines as age in the voice. And he said, I have found that singers in their 20s can have a wobble. And I have students in my studio who are in their 70s who have no sign of such vocal characteristics. In fact, they have what our culture might call a youthful and, more importantly, healthy sound. I found the primary cause of the vocal wobble to be a misuse rather than age. An unhealthy vocal technique used over a short or long period of time can be the cause of such a vocal problem. The solution is quite simple. Exercise, vocalize exercises that require body support along with focus. The NG is a healthy sound can make that can help develop focus in the voice. So you do a by pressing your tongue against the soft palate in the back of your throat, and do vocalize up and down the scale um, with that sound, and that helps you focus your sound. Um, the sustained hiss can help a singer learn what muscles to use in order to hold back the breath pressure or support the tone. I'm not sure how to explain that better, but it actually does work. Sustained hiss sound, so you'd be um, it helps you to kind of learn what muscles to use to hold back the breath pressure or support the tone. And you can do a sound on different uh, notes. Um, the overlay fast vibrato is another problem that results sometimes in singers. Some singers have the overly fast vibrato. That can be as disconcerting as the wobble. Neither the wobble nor the fast vibrato is the desired vocal sound for a healthy singing. A fast vibrato, can be caused by a number of vocal situations. One is pressure at the root of the tongue. This pressure at the root of the tongue can have its origin at the inhalation or at the attack or onset of the sound. Another cause can be the lack of vocal cord approximation. Many singers who do not quite understand that the vocal cords must close after inhalation, this lack of proper adduction of the cords can result in a faster vibrato speed. If the vocal cords do not approximate closely enough, the vibrato can become faster depending upon the size and shape of the vocal cords themselves. A lack of support is also another cause in this vocal problem. Most of us have heard singers with um, definite vibrato problems, and we have experienced singers with healthy vibrato. One key factor in attaining a healthy vibrato or a healthy sound is to be sure that the vibrato is vibrating at an even rate. An uneven vibrato can be caused by sudden changes in the subglottic breath pressure. This is caused by a lack of even body resistance or support in the body. The vocal cords then begin to separate and vibrate unhealthily or in an unhealthy manner. The result is an uneven vibrato, sometimes accompanied by pitch problems. The fast vibrato is less noticeable if the rate of vibrato is even rather than sporadic. Another problem that some people have is they have a straight tone. And he says, so often I have singers who come into my studio with a straight tone, no vibrato at all. um, some of these singers are not aware of a vibrato or how it is developed in the voice. Many come into my studio uh, with the express desire to develop a vibrato in their sound, realizing that their voice is lacking in that particular area. In over 25 years of teaching, he says he has never had a singer in his studio that could not develop a healthy vibrato. So it's possible for everybody. Yes, you're right, Darren. Some people force a vibrato, and he's going to talk about that too. And it's not natural. Um, and that's the problem is a lot of people don't understand that a vibrato naturally occurs when you have the correct breath support and are focusing the air properly, or in a healthy manner. Um, some straight tone singers have sung in choirs where the director has demanded a straight tone from all of the singers. This is a potentially damaging circumstance, and I've been in many choirs where the director would make us not use vibrato at all. Straight tone singing is extremely unhealthy for the voice. Vocal nodules can result from such vocal production because of too much pressure held at the glottis to prevent vibrato from occurring in the tone. And I've seen that too. You're right, Darren. It's not healthy, especially, but there are people that believe that they don't need a straight tone at all ever. Um, but it can and will cause vocal nodules to result on the vocal cords. Choral blend is developed through vowel and acoustic alignment, not squeezing the voice into straight tone sounds. The proper vowel and acoustic alignment can create a beautiful vocal blend. I experienced this personally in Berlin when 11 of my singers sang Let Your Garden Grow from Candide as a finale, along with a men's choir. The resulting vocal sound of these 11 singers who were trained on the NG ring was amazing, to say the least, because these singers were trained with vowel and resonance alignment. The resulting sound was one of beautiful blend of tone along with fullness of vocal sound and blend. Several conductors from German opera houses came to me after the concert to ask about the training of these singers. I have to clarify that performance that he's talking about was at the uh, celebration of the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. This was when he had 11 singers sing this song, and that's what got so much attention, was because their blending was incredible, even though they were all using vibrato. Um, Most straight tone singers cannot use the idea of vocal cord closure during the first part of their training because too much pressure has been held at the vocal cords for too long of a time period. So uh, he found that vibrato comes into the voice when the singer achieves a proper balance in the support muscles and when the singer keeps feeling the feeling of the U vowel in their pharynx. It's a combination of those two things. The Italian U is a crucial part of a singer's training for vibrato to occur. The U vowel allows to allows a healthy adduction of the vocal cords without too much pressure at the glottis. It is understandable that this vowel is crucial in the Italian school. I find that the U vowel must be produced without the bunching of the back of the tongue and with a high and wide soft palate, like you're yawning, to be efficient acoustically. The result is beauty and resonance simultaneously. Another problem is diaphragmatic vibrato. This comes in to what Darren was talking about, a forced vibrato. A diaphragmatic vibrato is the pulsating of the diaphragm, which is at the upper part of your stomach, during a sustained tone to create a false vibrato. Music theater singers develop this damaging vocal habit to have some sort of vibrato when none is present in the tone. This is a huge mistake. A diaphragmatic vibrato is difficult to repair because the lower abdominal muscles memorize the pulsating sensation so deeply. So, this situation can be repaired with lots of time and hard work. One solution is to use the idea of the sustained hiss and memorize what the body feels like during this function. Then sing a tone while keeping the same feel in the body that will stabilize the shaking of the diaphragm. But generally, their stomach is going in and out really fast to cause a fake vibrato. Hi, New Image. Good to see you. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Another problem is the role of a vocal trill. In some cases, a singer can begin to awaken the vibrato function by using a trill. A trill is an educated yodel at the vocal cords that may or may not be easy for a singer to produce. Some connect with this idea and begin to release the over squeezing of the vocal cords, therefore allowing for the development of vibrato. And one thing he didn't mention that I want to add is some people have what I call a jaw vibrato, and I saw this a lot in some singers. Even I've even seen it in a few well-known opera singers back in the day in the 70s. But I saw it especially in Whitney Houston because if you watch her sing, she would at times, especially when she did the video "I Will Always Love You," make her vibrato with her jaw going up and down, and that comes from too much tension in her jaw, which is kind of surprising, I'm sure, but that's why she did the chin vibrato. But a forced vibrato, which he had mentioned earlier, can sound like a goat bleating, and that does not sound natural at all. So you want to avoid that. I just wanted to add that to this lesson. Healthy vibrato can be achieved in a rather short period of time, though. Usually, the time factor is dependent upon the singer's mind and body coordination. Some singers have more of a connection to their body than others do. I recently had a large voiced baritone who began to develop some vibrato in his sound after only 3 lessons. I have had others who have taken much longer because of singing straight tone for so many years. Yes, there are exercises. At any rate, any singer can achieve a properly regulated and even vibrato with concentration, proper instruction, and by embracing the process rather than the result. Patience is the most important aspect while training and balancing vocal production. I, Darren, I found an article that uh, this voice teacher had written about vibrato, and he's, in my mind, probably the most knowledgeable and expert voice teacher I've ever come across. He really, really understands the voice, and his name is David L. Jones. And he had 11 singers that he took to Berlin when they brought the Berlin Wall, and he had them sing. And German opera house people were coming to him afterwards asking about how he trained those singers because they blended perfectly, even though they all used vibrato. Right. Ken Tamplin is the most awful voice teacher or voice coach you could possibly imagine. You're right about that. um, and unfortunately, there are countless vocal coaches and teachers on YouTube who have no idea what they're talking about and are causing more problems than they are helping. And that's sad. But I mentioned a couple of the things that he talked about that were techniques to help develop a vibrato, and that was one was to vocalize with an NG sound. So it's a mm, mm. You press your tongue up against the back of your mouth to make that NG sound, and you vocalize doing that. So you would go up and down the scale. And you can still kind of hear my vibrato when I do that, even though I've got my tongue pressed against the back of my throat. But you also need to really start with learning proper breath support for the voice, how to support it, and how to sustain your breath. And I may redo that class on that I gave, because that is the biggest key to singing well. And you don't have to sound like an opera singer to use that support. You're not going to sound like an opera singer unless you get a lot more training. um, but the breath support can protect your voice from damage. You'll be able to sing more often and for longer periods without getting hoarse or feeling vocally tired because of that support. And opera singers, the reason they sing the way they do is because they are trained to be able to be heard over an orchestra, and sometimes an orchestra and chorus without a microphone, and they're supposed to sing opera. An opera can last anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours, and they may not be singing the entire time because they're not always on stage. But even, even though that's their total time of singing may only be 30 or 45 minutes in an opera altogether, um, it can wear you out if you're trying to be heard without a microphone uh, all the way to the back of the audience over an orchestra. So that's why they're trained like they are. And they can do that and never have any damage to their vocal cords because of the training. That's one of the things I respect so much about opera singers. And I still am learning, and I honestly don't know it all. And I was going to college to get a vocal, a focus on voice, but a music education degree so that I could teach voice. And I didn't finish. And I had not taken any vocal pedagogy classes yet. Sorry, my mouth is not working today. Pedagogy the is where they teach you how to teach. So I didn't have those classes. But yes, you need to try to make sure you avoid bad voice teachers. And there are a lot of other things I can go into. Um, but the first thing that where everybody needs to start is the breath support and breath control. And it does use your entire midsection, even your lower back and the upper gluteal muscles when you sing. And that's why when I was singing in a professional choir, um, by the time I got home from the choir practice, which lasted about 2 hours, I was physically tired because I had been working my midsection and my lower back for so long that I was just physically worn out. Um, and if you have to sing opera ever, it does wear you out physically. You feel like you've been working out. Um, but anyway, I probably gave a lot more technical knowledge or information that may be difficult for the average person to understand. And I apologize if I did do that, but I'm hoping that you understood most of what I presented from Dr. David Jones, because I believe he's one of the best voice teachers in the world. Um, I read about him, and he studied from a man who was a longtime student of the same guy that was the voice teacher for uh, Caruso. You, I don't know if you've heard of Caruso or not. They called him the Great Caruso. He was a very popular high tenor in opera in the early 1900s, late 18, early 1900s. I think he died um, in 1927 or something like that. But the voice teacher that he had taught this other man who taught David Jones. And so he really learned some traditional operatic lessons and how to teach voice from some great people. um, but yeah, Caruso was so good that one of the most prominent opera composers in the late 1800s, early 1900s was Puccini. And some of his arias are the most famous arias ever. And he specifically wrote many of his tenor arias for Caruso to sing because he loved Caruso's voice so much. And so it was kind of a neat marriage, I guess, between the two. Um, there is one aria that we have no recording of Caruso singing because uh, it was written after he died. um, So we don't have a recording of him singing probably the most famous aria that Puccini ever wrote for a tenor. But fortunately, my favorite tenor was born in the 50s and he sang it. So that was Mario Lanza. But a lot of people have always commented about my vibrato. Um, I've even recently, someone in a live show was saying that every time they've heard me sing, my vibrato is always natural and consistent sounding. And and really, when you get to the point of learning all the other techniques that I talked about, especially the breath support and control, it just naturally happens. I don't force it. Yes, Caruso was Mario Alonso's idol, and in fact, Mario Alonso did the movie about Caruso, playing Caruso, and that was one of the first big roles he got in movie making, and he was thrilled to portray uh, Caruso in a movie. It's the movie's not completely accurate though, um, because there was a accident that occurred when Caruso was he was practicing an opera, and I think a beam fell or something, and he hurt his back, and that caused chronic problems for a while after that, and then eventually he died. But anyway, I'm going off on other subjects. But yeah, if you're I try not to sound like an opera singer all the time, but I always do try to have at least happens, but it only really happens if I hold a note. If I'm going from note to note real fast, you're probably not going to hear a vibrato. Um, Also, I wanted to point out that there are opera singers that know how to do a trill with their voice, just like you do a trill on a stringed instrument or on the piano. They can do that with their voice. So they're intentionally going from one note to the next really quickly. And it sounds like a weird, a weird vibrato because it's not really a vibrato, but it's about the same speed as uh, a fairly fast vibrato. So some people mistake it as just a fast vibrato, but they're intentionally doing a trill because in Baroque music, especially, singers had to sing trills. Um, they don't require it very much in later operas, but in the 1600s, they definitely did have to do that fairly often. But anyway, I encourage you to go back and look at my voice support lesson and start there. And again, I may come back and do that again with reaching out to David Jones' article on that to help explain breath support better. But my voice teacher told me that I was one of the easiest students she ever taught because she could explain something to me and tell me to make a change in my singing in some way, and I understood it immediately and I made the change and it stuck with me. And she never had a voice student do that. So I know some people are going to struggle more than I did, but not to say that I'm all that in a bag of chips, but just some things come easier to people than other people, you know. Like like David Jones said, he had one student that developed a vibrato when he didn't have any to start with. He developed a vibrato after only 3 lessons. And then he has several other singers that it took months and months of lessons before they could figure out how to develop a natural vibrato. But if it does take you longer to figure out and work out, don't get discouraged. And if I can try to help you in some way privately, I'll be willing to try to do that. Although I have not been trained in vocal teaching, I can do my best to try to help you figure things out on a one-on-one basis. Yes, and when you sing from the throat, it's because you don't have your breath support correctly. You're breathing in your upper chest instead of down low. So if you notice a baby on its back breathing, you'll see that the baby's stomach goes up and down. And that's the correct and natural way to breathe. But somehow, when we grow up, we forget how to do that and we start breathing higher in our chest. But it's also important to breathe deeply like babies did, or do, because it prevents you from getting pneumonia and other illnesses. So it's good practice to get into. And after a while, you don't even think about the techniques that you learn. They just become second nature to you. So that's the key, and the goal is to make it to get to the point where you practiced it so much it's just second nature to you, and you're not really thinking about it. You're just doing it. So I sing a variety of different styles of songs, and that's what I always try to do is try to at least use my breath support correctly so that I have a natural sounding vibrato. Um, because I hear false vibratos so often, and it's not a good sound. But you don't want tension in your neck or in your jaw or really in your face. One problem I have though is that I have chronic pain in my neck. So sometimes, depending on the pain level, my neck gets really tight in the back, and that affects my singing to some degree. I'm starting to get my voice back to where it was about 3 or 4 years ago, but it's still not 100%, even though I'm able to sing a lot more things that I had been avoiding recently. Um, but the problems occurred because I had been intubated several times for surgery, and at least when I went to a voice expert, they told me that um, they think that caused trauma to my throat, and so my throat was trying to protect my vocal cords, and that was causing me to have a lot of problems singing. And I think it's finally getting through using straw exercises like you see Kate use, and other things that I've done. The combination I think has helped me to get closer to where I used to be vocally. But I hope that you found this helpful. And I didn't intend to make it an hour long, but so I'm going to wrap it up here. I'll try to put all of my uh, videos on vocal techniques in a playlist. So if anybody wants to go back and find them, it'll be listed in a playlist. Make it easier for you to find them all and listen to them. Okay. Thank you all for coming. I'm sure I've probably bored some of you, but I hope that it's been beneficial to most of you. All right. Y'all have a good day and keep singing. And the most important thing in singing, I want to say again, is connecting to your song on an emotional level. To me, that makes more difference than anything. Um, Sing with passion or don't sing at all. So if you love to sing, keep singing. If you want to learn to sing better, try to use some of these techniques that I've taught. And if you want some one on one help, reach out to me via email and I'll try to figure out a way to help you one on one in a private session or something. So I, I'm always willing to help anybody who wants it. Not that I am the end all be all. I know there are better singers than I am. I'm not disillusioned to think I'm the best ever. So keep that in mind as well. Um, I would love if I could afford to go back and study with a voice teacher, one that I know is a very knowledgeable voice teacher that's not going to teach me bad habits, but will help me to fix some of the bad habits I may have developed since I stopped taking lessons. Um, so anyway, I'm never going to stop learning, and I don't think any of us really do stop learning. At least we shouldn't. So keep plugging away, keep singing, and God bless. Bye.